a lot of people kind of have preconceived notions about Eastern Europeans in general. You watch a lot of movies, and Russians are like always the bad guys. They kind of always got like that mean, stern, scary voice. And I remember at first, I definitely kind of felt that on the streets. People are not used to talking to strangers at all. It's just kind of left over from the Soviet culture that you try to talk to someone on the street. I feel like in America, if you're trying to talk to someone on the street, and even in California, I noticed this, they're a lot more receptive to just talking to a stranger. Even if they're not interested, they'll at least give you a couple minutes. Or if you knock on the door, they'll let you talk for a bit. And if it's like a hot day, if you ask for a glass of water, they'll give you one usually. In Ukraine, it wasn't like that as much. There were definitely more people like to keep to themselves, and especially on some cold winter days, it'd be rough when you're out contacting all day, trying to talk to people and nobody wants to talk to you. And at first, that can be kind of off-putting. You think, oh, these people aren't nice, blah, blah, blah. But one thing I really noticed pretty soon on after meeting with investigators and members and just talking to a lot of people in general is that deep down they're just as genuine as any other person out there. They're actually some of the nicest people I've ever met. It's just kind of more of a different culture, really. Where in America, people, I feel like, can tend to be a bit more, I don't want to say fake, but fake in the sense that they'll be nice to you, but in reality, they might not actually care about you. In Ukraine, if they don't care about you, they probably won't talk to you. But once they care about you, once they know you, they'll treat you like family. And that I noticed was very interesting, that we'd teach some investigators that, 3 weeks earlier, I hadn't known them at all. But they'd been nice enough to let us in, and we'd talk. And after 3 weeks, they felt almost like an uncle or something like that. They just felt really close. I remember in particular, there was one investigator me and a companion taught. He was actually homeless at the time. He lived in the boiler room of a car wash that was right next to our apartment. So he would work for the car wash, and they'd let him stay in the boiler room. I don't know if that was the best deal he could get, but that's what he had. And we had, there's a lot of rough times in that area in the sense that we wouldn't have a lot of new investigators. So we'd see him a lot. And I remember my companion and I got very, very close to him. There was one point where he hadn't eaten in a few days at all, just because he hadn't had the money to get food. So I remember one morning, me and my companion we made some breakfast, and he went and had breakfast with him that morning. That we made for him and had a lesson with him that morning. And honestly, that was one of the best feelings I'd ever had. It was just really just doing something completely selfless for someone else. And I just got a glimpse of how God loves people, that no matter how imperfect people are, no matter what they've gone through, no matter what dumb decisions they've made, that at the end they're still God's children and God still loves them. And that obviously we're not perfect like God, but we should learn to have some of that same charity for other people. And just noticing, talking to all these people that had been through a lot, really. Ukraine has been through a really violent past, going back and forth throughout history between different wars and battles, and then the Soviet Union, coming out of the Soviet Union. It's just been the government's been full of just back and forth, never really been 100% stable. And especially when I left, obviously, there was people wanting to break off from the country. There was a huge separatist movement to join Russia, and Russia was sending, not officially, but we're sending people over to kind of start riots and kind of get that action going. So I just felt for these people a lot, because there are people that, even though they might seem hard at first, were just very loving, very genuine people. And seeing them go through more and more hardships like this just makes you sad, because these people you've worked so hard to care for and love, that you served and been alongside, you see them going through all these problems that you wouldn't even think of going through back home. I remember when I moved to California, people would joke wow, you went from one crazy place to probably the quietest place you could go, Bakersfield, California. People don't really talk about Bakersfield that much. And it was true. It was funny. I'm sure the church wanted to keep us somewhere safe after being there. It got pretty violent after we left. But it just made me realize how blessed we are to live in a safe place, because there's all types of terrible things going on throughout the world that you don't even realize. The news doesn't even cover everything. You have to be there. And once you've actually met these people and seen what they've gone through, you realize just the drastic difference.